Hey, good evening, everybody. How are you? This is two-time GM of the Year, Pantheon Cup champion, host of that fantasy football show with fantasy football god, Freddy Ewan. This is my favorite time of the year, baby. What a great first week in the NFL we had. A lot to dissect. The first week is always very interesting. We have our drafts out of the way. We're people who play as much fantasy football as I do, you're spending literally every night studying, drafting, trying to put guys together, and then the first week comes, and it's really to see how that drafted, and just like any football team, is how to make adjustments. And we got to see a lot of things from week one that we were not sure about that we're going to discuss today. We're going to go over a lot to digest. Want to get right into it. The first player that I am going to bring up is Marvin Harrison. Harrison was he went either late first round all the way up to late second round draft pick, fourth overall player taken in the draft, first non-quarterback taken in the draft. High hopes for Harrison. Harrison had a really bad day yesterday. I think he had one reception for 4 yards. And if you're a Harrison fan or Harrison owner, don't start flipping out yet. The guy's a rookie. It's his first game. Cardinals played a tough defense in Buffalo. They scored some points on the board, but Murray didn't really pass the ball a whole lot. I think Murray only had like 19 pass attempts, not a whole lot of distribution. Trey McBride also did not have a good day. McBride led in targets. I think Harrison only had about 3 targets, but the Cardinals are going to get it together. Harrison owners, you still got to start them week in and week out, and I think things are really nothing to go up from here with Marvin Harrison owners. I know I took Harrison in a couple leagues, and he squat the bench for me. Some other things that we want to talk about. I'm going to share my screen too. Let me see if I can get this all shared up and up, because there's a lot of players that I do want to talk about on all these players have made a big fantasy impact. I'm going to go ahead and just pop this screen up first and show you, Devontae Smith started out of the slot for most of the game on Friday night, and it worked out well. 8 targets, 7 receptions, 84 yards. He did not have a touchdown, but if you look at his slot play, had a lot of yards after the catch here, caught a big pass here. Really good game for Devontae Smith. You always get, I always get a little timid when you got a receiver on your team who is not the number one receiver and you are depending on them for big points. But I think, 2 guys that stand out, Smith is one and Waddle is the other. I think you can really put them in with some confidence, and I really think you can put Smith in this year with some confidence as well. The other thing, Cincinnati got their ass whipped from the New England Patriots yesterday. Zach Moss, 9 carries, 44 yards. He did score a touchdown, but let's let everyone know that Chase Brown didn't play much. This is Zach Moss's team. Zach Moss is going to be the guy carrying the ball. A lot of high hopes for Chase Brown, but this is really Zach Moss's job to lose. So if you do have Chase Brown, I don't think cutting him yet is quite a good idea, but he's definitely a guy that you want to stash on the bench. I have Chase Brown on a couple teams. I did not start him at all yesterday because I wanted to wait and see what happened. Did not turn out too well for him at all. Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills too. The Buffalo Bills won yesterday. I don't have anyone's stats up for that, but the Buffalo Bills won yesterday, but the wide receivers really did not see a whole lot. The man there, who is the man, Dalton Kincaid, did not have that great of a game. Shakir, he did catch a touchdown, only had 3 targets. I think that the guy to get, though, is Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman had 5 targets. He had a 21.7% target share. Rookie drafted in the first round, late first round. I think Keon Coleman is the guy to get over Shakir. And the other guy, I forget his name, the guy who was on the Commanders and every other team before that. But the one guy that I am going to start taking a look at for wide receiver wise is Coleman. Josh Allen, on the other hand, really good day for Josh Allen, through two touchdowns, had two running touchdowns, had the most points. Hey, Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Doesn't matter if he doesn't have the best receivers. Josh Allen's going to get it done on feeding ground. Great fantasy player to have. Champ's going to be really happy about that. Other guy that we want to talk about right now, too, is, this was a shocker yesterday. And, I did not see this guy drafted a lot. I know that I didn't draft him too often. Don't think I even drafted him in any best ball leagues. But hey, how about the job by Tank Bigsby? Tank Bigsby was pretty phenomenal yesterday. Tank Bigsby, 12 carries, 73 yards. ETN owners, I don't think you have to worry too much, although ETN did have that big fumble on the goal line, which not only cost Jacksonville the game, but cost you some points. ETN did get the goal line work. He's going to get the a lot of the passes in the backfield. But hey, don't count Tank Bigsby out right now. 12 carries off of 73 yards, and he had some big gains. Almost broke a 20-year-old rush right there. Got a 26-yard rush right there, up the middle. Sweeps. Bigsby was really good. Bigsby's a young guy. He's been on the Jacksonville team. I think he's going into his third year, but he is a really guy that I am going to be looking to grab off the waiver wire in a lot of leagues. Next player that we're going to talk about is this guy is just Neil's going to be happy about this, my buddy Neil. But this guy is this guy's something else, and I was pretty confident that he was going to make or break the league. But how about the job by Devin Chain? I'm going to let you know right now that Mostert is out. A Chain, you look here, only 10 carries, 24 yards, and one touchdown on the running end, but the guy was in the backfield. I think he caught 6 or 7 passes, had 100 yards in total. This guy, as long as he stay healthy, is going to be I think he's going to be a top 3 running back, definitely a top 10 running back, and probably a top 5 running back. As long as he stays healthy, I think that you can start stashing Mozart on the bench now and look to trade him while he's still got some kind of value left. But a Chain is the man right now in Miami. He's going to get the ball a lot and often. Tennessee Titans. We looked at Najee Spears and we looked at Tony Pollard. They were looking through a little bit of a split backfield. That is not the case. Tony Pollard, great day, 16 carries, 82 yards, scored a touchdown, had some big runs, including a 29-yard touchdown. Really impressive. Pollard, who had a really down year with the Cowboys after really his coming out party the year before that, starts out hot on the Titans. Spears still a young player, but at this time, I'm leaving Spears on the bench. And if you got Pollard, give him a start. I'm sure a lot of people wanted to wait and see what was going to happen there. And Pollard is definitely the guy who is going to be the man in Tennessee. So keep an eye on him. The Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams. Some growing pains yesterday. The Bears did win the game. They did not score an offensive touchdown. Keenan Allen got a ton of targets for Keenan Allen. Not a lot of catches. Allen looked really sloppy. Adunze did not have that great a game. I think he only had 3 or 4 targets, but Adunze, they're going to get him into this game, and they're going to get him into this lineup. He's a guy that you definitely want to have and stash him on the bench as well, because I think as the season progresses, you're going to see a lot less of Keenan Allen and a lot more of Adunze. And Williams is going to get it together. It's your first game as a rookie. There are not a lot. If you look in the history of quarterbacks that have started as a rookie, the first game, they do not do very well. I think Peyton Manning, who turned out to be one of the, best quarterbacks of all time, I think he threw, 3 or 4 interceptions in his first game. Another guy we want to talk about, and I got to pat myself on the back for this one because, I got this. I definitely got this right. I drafted him in a bunch of leagues and a bunch of best ball leagues, and that is Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon went from the Bengals to the Texans last year. They gave him the rock 30 times, 159 yards, and a touchdown. Look at all these runs, all positive yardage for him. Wasn't even tackled for a loss. Let me tell you something about, drafting running backs on teams that score points. It is always a good thing to do. The Texans have a ton of receivers. They have a fantastic offense. They have a fantastic quarterback with CJ Stroud. Mixon's going to fit right in there. They're going to be in the game a lot. The game script is always going to favor Mixon in the game because I think they're going to be in a lot of football games this year. They're either going to have a lead or they're going to be really close. I don't really see a whole lot of teams being capable of blowing Houston out. And, just in general, getting those running backs on teams that score points, good offenses. I would much rather have a average running back on a team that scores a lot of points than a really, really good running back on a team that doesn't score any points at all, aka Saquon Barkley last year on the New York Giants. Going back to the Jaguars, not a great game by Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has not played well, really for the long part ever since they beat the Chargers and that come from behind playoff win. Lawrence has not played that well. A lot of different receivers on that team. New team for Lawrence, but one guy who I thought really showed a lot of promise is Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas was targeted. Let me see here. He was targeted. I think he was targeted 4 or 5 times, 47 yards. He did have a touchdown. Brian Thomas is a big dude, and he's gonna hook up with Lawrence a lot. I think what you're gonna see is Thomas is gonna start same thing as a rookie. He's gonna start making some moves. I think you're really gonna see Thomas be the one guy up front. Malik Neighbors on the Giants. 5 catches, 55 yards, didn't put up the greatest game. It had me thinking too. There were a lot of wide receivers drafted in the draft, and the guys that were drafted later that were put on good teams, Xavier Worthy, um, Keon Coleman, those guys are going to have, I think, a lot more opportunities on those good teams because they're going to score a lot more. I think Neighbors is going to get a lot of points this year because the Giants have really no one else to pass the ball to. But Neighbors is going to take his licks, and the defense, the Giants are going to be a really bad team this year. They are going to be a really bad team this year. Neighbors is pretty much the only fantasy guy that you really want on that team. Singletary, I am not touching. Another team where I am not touching any players at all. If you have any players on this team, cut them today. Even if you have Chuba. The Carolina Panthers were awful yesterday. They played the New Orleans Saints. With the Saints have a good defense, but they were just awful. I am not going near any Panthers or starting any Panthers anytime soon, unless I'm in desperation. Kenneth Walker, Seattle Seahawks. Charbonnet had a touchdown, which was great, but Kenneth Walker was the ball hog there. Walker had, I think, he was in every 2 minute drill. He took 80% of the snaps. He had a phenomenal game yesterday, Kenneth Walker. Same thing, he didn't have that great of a game, but you could tell that, really there is in Cleveland, right now, there is no one behind Jerome Ford. The game script did not really suit the Browns because Cowboys were up most of the day yesterday. But, jury's still out on Nick Chubb. He's not coming back for another 3 games anyway. But Jerome Ford is going to be in that workhorse role. Like I said, not that great of a game yesterday, but, they're going to give Ford a lot of carries. And, same thing as Browns are going to run that ground and pound game. Deshaun Watson was horrible, and they're going to have to rely on Ford a lot more. So I think I think playing Ford in the next couple weeks is not a bad idea until you get Chubb back and see what Chubb can do. Nico Collins, same thing yesterday. We were all worried. I'll tell you one thing is I did not draft any Texans receivers. I drafted Joe Mixon before any Texan receivers. Nico Collins had a good day. Steph Diggs had a good day. Tank Dell did not have a good day, but I don't think what it looks like from now, and it's just one game, but it looks like Nico Collins is still going to be the man in Houston as a wide receiver standpoint. Jay and Daniels, whew, man, I remember, God, it must have been 3 years ago when the Philadelphia Eagles, my Eagles were, we made the playoffs. We were a sub-playoff team, but there were so many garbage time Hurts plays where Jalen Hurts would run the ball in and score a touchdown, and you would see stats where Hurts would have 12, 13 fantasy points, and going into the third quarter, and by the end of the game he'd have 30. Jay Daniels Daniels had 2 rushing touchdowns yesterday. He is going to be something else. I don't know if Washington's going to win a lot of games this year, but I can tell you this: Jane Daniels is going to be a good fantasy quarterback. And talking about that, look at that guy in Indianapolis. As long as he can stay healthy, I mean, he can throw the ball like you wouldn't believe. Running quarterbacks in the NFL are great fantasy quarterbacks, and I think Jane Daniels proved that yesterday. Um, Another concern, if you want to look over in Oakland, is the Oakland backfield. Everyone took Zamir White and thought Zamir White was going to be the 1A dog, et cetera, et cetera. Madison was the one who scored the touchdown, I believe. Zamir White was in a timeshare with Madison. This is a guy that is probably not going to get a whole lot of, I don't have high expectations or high hopes for Zamir White right now. Let's talk about this guy. And this guy, I think it's just going to get better. I mean, he must have had 17, 18 targets and 15 receptions yesterday with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp 2 years ago put up wide receiver numbers that were unbelievable. If you had him on the team, you were in the fantasy playoffs, and you were most likely in the championship game. Puka is down. He went down for the count. Puka came out of nowhere. If you had Puka last year, which you got him off of waiver wires, you were probably a great fantasy team. Now, if you have Cooper Kupp, I mean, Stafford loves throwing the ball to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp looked phenomenal yesterday. I think I got some of his. I think I even put some of his stuff on the screen. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find Cooper Kupp, because I just want to. Here he is. Let's take a look at Cooper Kupp. 21 targets. That is insane. 21 targets, 14 receptions, 110 yards, 43 yards after the catch, only 1 touchdown. And look at all these routes, just little routes right here. He's got a couple 20+ yard routes where he ran out, but just he's catching a lot of these little, 6-7 yard hitch routes, and bam, 21 targets. That is insane, and that number might get higher. That number might get higher with Kupp now that Puka's out. So we'll get into in a couple days, who the guys to pick up off the waiver wire are. But man, if you have Cooper Kupp right now, you want to hold on to this guy. I'm sure everyone's going to be asking to trade him, but that's the last thing I would be doing right now. And just bring a few more of these up that we talked about really quickly. Nico Collins, just take a look at Nico's routes. Huge throw over here. Targeted 8 times, 6 receptions, 117, didn't have a touchdown, but big day from him. Take a look at Stafford's throwing too. Look at Stafford. Stafford was really good yesterday. 34-49, 317 yards. Of course, he was in a high-scoring pace game against the Lions, but look at the accuracy before 10 yards. Look at the accuracy on Stafford before 10 yards. He did throw a pick, but Stafford was pretty amazing. Even though Detroit won, the Rams looked really good yesterday offensively and from a fantasy standpoint. And yeah, so that's about it on this. What I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to bring up, we're just going to go through the guys who had some big days yesterday. These are the quarterbacks. Josh Allen, of course, being Josh Allen, number 1 pick. Baker Mayfield, big day yesterday. I think Baker Mayfield threw 4 touchdowns, and I'm telling you that Washington secondary is pretty bad. You want to stream a quarterback, just stream them against the Washington Commanders, because, boy, they look good. Of course, Jane Daniels puts up 28.16 points. Richardson, of course, has a big day. Lamar Jackson, you have 4 running quarterbacks within the top 5. It's always good to have rushing quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts wasn't that bad. Derek Carr had a good game. Geno Smith had a good game. As we take a look at that, let's go to the wide receivers and see exactly what the wide receivers did. One, Jayden Reed had a big game. He's not going to have another big game, I don't think, with Jordan Love out for the next couple weeks. Cooper Kupp, of course, puts up a big game. Tyreek Hill puts up a big game. And how about this guy, Jameson Williams? Buddy of mine did not want me to draft Jameson Williams. We were, working on a draft together. He did not want me to draft Jameson Williams, told me it was a bad idea. And I wanted the guy. I listened to him. I didn't draft him, but I think Jameson Williams really had a good day yesterday. Mike Evans, hey, Mike Evans is like, he is so vanilla. I mean, the guy is always going to be there. He's always going to be catching touchdown passes. I think Evans had 2 touchdown passes. A couple other big names are up there. AJ Brown, Chris Godwin again. Look at the Tampa Bay. Diggs actually has a big day. Alec Pierce, that's going to be one in a wonder. I don't think we're going to see much from him. Xavier Worthy has a big game. Rashid has a big game. I also think that's a little bit of wonder. And we look at the running backs right now. Of course, CMC, the best running back in the league last year, is yet to play. He is going to play tonight. Running backs right now, though, Saquon, big game on Friday night, 3 touchdowns. Joe Mixon, a chain. Dobbins, let's talk about Dobbins, baby. Dobbins is on the waiver wire in a lot of fantasy leagues. This guy was a great player 2 years ago, tore his ACL in the first game. This guy comes up and puts 22 points on the board, 10 attempts, 135 yards. Big game, big game. Kamara, big game. Stevenson, really big game by Stevenson. James Conner had a big game too. And then lastly, we're going to go over and we're going to click the tight ends. If you take the tight ends and you just take Likely out, look at these tight ends. Likely, Moreau, Bowers, Pitts. But look at these numbers besides Likely. I mean, no one put up any numbers for a tight end. I think the days of that, dominant tight end and, trying to get one of these guys like, Kelsey or Laporta or McBride or Andrews, I think those days are over. I think spending on a big tight end is probably a bad idea in fantasy football these days. I don't think Kelsey is, I think Kelsey is a shell of himself almost. That being said, the Chiefs are still going to be good. They're still going to win a lot of games and have a good chance to three-peat. But, tight end wise, it's really like, I mean, if you're spending a lot of money on tight end, it's a bad idea. And, I think you can stream a lot of these guys too. I mean, Isaiah Likely was available in how many leagues? And I mean, the guy puts up, 26 points. Pretty unbelievable. But we're going to talk waiver wire tomorrow, and we will have start and sit them later on in the week. Hope I didn't take up too much time for everyone, but everyone have a great night. Enjoy the game. The San Francisco 49ers take on the New York Jets. That should be exciting. I got the under in this. I think there's going to be a whole lot of scoring between these two good defenses going up against each other, and it's going to be interesting if Aaron Rodgers can last more than one play this year. Everyone have a great night. Enjoy the game.